All right, so we're gonna we're gonna make some bats. So these are what we would call tar paper bats here, right? And I'll show you how they work when we make the plates later in a little bit. So that'll probably be a separate recording for those of you that are watching later. That'll probably be a separate recording where we just do plates, but then I'll attach this bat at the beginning of that demo. So that comes from a piece of tar paper, and this is, or they call it roofing felt, and it comes in these big sheets. And we've used it. A lot of you guys have used this before for slab building. Sometimes we have done a slab building template thing, and it comes in these huge rolls. And so when you need some for throwing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this up into 4-foot segments, right? So you'll have plenty. It's about a yard wide, and then it'll be like 3 feet long. So you can get plenty of cutouts out of it, what you want. And then we'll just leave them at the studio. And then when you come by, just say that you want a chunk of tar paper, and we'll just give that to you. They'll be ready to go. All right, so let's talk about what we want to do. Oh, if you want to buy these for yourself, this roofing felt or tar paper is buy the roofing stuff at the hardware store. The roll is pretty big, like, I don't know, it's like 50 feet long or something. So you get way more than you would ever really need to use in a lifetime. Meaning we bought some for the studio 2 years ago, and we're not even halfway through it yet. So and you want the lighter weight one. It comes in a 30 weight one, or a 30 and a 15. You want the 15, which is a thinner, slightly thinner one, because it works better for what we want to do. So I just cut a chunk off that was like a foot wide, and then I cut a square off the end of that. So I think this used to be on here, and I cut a chunk off. So just to make it easier for it to be on camera. And what I want to do, since the wheel spins round and round, I just want to get something. Let's just measure this really fast. How wide is this thing? So here, let's just measure it. This little disc that I'm measuring with is about 7 inches, 7.5 inches wide. You see that there? It's about 7.5 inches wide, so that's okay. Anywhere around that range, 6, 7, 8, it doesn't matter. It all depends on what you're going to make. The only reason why I got this disc, and this is just a leftover from a laser cutting thing. You can use anything. You just use a bowl, metal bowl or whatever from your kitchen, anything you want like that. The reason why this is important is it's just so that I have a template to cut out something round. I mean, I could leave it square, but it just looks kind of goofy spinning around on my wheel. So I'm going to use the back side of this because it's just this side, when the edges are curling upwards like this, it's harder for me to cut and hold down in place. So when I flip it over, put it down, and then these lines here, I find a little bit distracting when I cut it out. Pencil. So I put this guy down. So I cut this out so it's a little small enough. Or normally I would just cut it out off the big chunk usually, but here we go. So like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pencil and first trace it out. So why am I doing that? It's just in case I lose this, like this, this gets lifted off of here. I can put it back in exactly the right place because I want it to be pretty round. So this is just any object, 6, 8 inches, whatever. And you'll see that I made much bigger ones too. So then I'm just using a utility knife for this. This one's a little bit rusty, but the blade is sharp. If you're using one of your X-Acto knives that you've been using for ceramics already, this X-Acto knife might not be sharp enough, right? Because it's gotten dull. Put a new blade on, because that will, tar paper is kind of tough. It's hard to cut through. All right, so here, this is a pretty sharp blade. I put it down, and I'm doing it on my mat, right? Do not cut this directly on your HardieBacker board. Cut this out on your mat. Right, just cut this baby out. And this stuff is pretty tough, meaning I'm pressing down pretty hard here, and just me doing that isn't enough usually to finish that cut. It's not quite cut out yet. So I need to still keep going with this cut. It's not quite enough. All right, so I need to make this camera easier to position because it's hard. So I usually have to cut through it at least twice, and then I'm just going to check to see by lifting up. See, it's still attached. Even if I lift that up, it's still attached down on there. So I need to make it so I need to probably go over that maybe 3 times. We'll see. So I'm pushing pretty hard. Oh, see how that's lifting up now? That means that area is cut through. I'll move on to the next area. And I'll go at least once around. I mean, I'll go all the way around now. I'm just going to do once all the way around. I'll do, there we go. And then I'm going to switch hands and do this side now. And any disc will work. This technique will not probably work with little discs, even though I've never tried it. I mean, you could try doing it with a 4-inch disc and just see if it works. I don't know if that would work, though. You can try. And this will be the bat that we throw our pieces on. See? Oh, it's getting there. See, that's cut through. I'm trying to not let this wood piece move around right on here as I cut. So that's why I'm always holding it. Oh, that's why I'm always holding it down. Just be careful you don't slice yourself open here. Getting there. Still attachy. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you know, these things will last for a while once you make them, so you want to keep them, you know, you don't want to do a lousy job on this. There we go. So that one's off. Woo! So that gets thrown away. Closing that up. Put that somewhere. Put that back in the belongs, actually. All right, so that goes away. And then now I have this awesome disc. There's some of these little burrs and stuff. You want to pick off all this little junk here if you can. Right? All the stuff on the side. Don't let that go into your clay. So there's a little bit of a spot there. I'll leave it. So I'm just picking off the little junks that are going to fall out. I don't want that in my clay. And so that one's ready to go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to soak it in a bucket of hot water, which I have going on down over here. Let me see if I can get you guys to see that. So if you look over here, there's a bucket of water, you see, and that's hot water, warm water out of my tap. And I have them soaking in there already. So I have a bigger one and two smaller ones. I'll throw this one in on top of those. And so this will be the first one. They need to soak for a little bit, not too long. And the hot water helps soften them up, make them more pliable and sticky. So they'll stick down to the bat a little bit. They're more pliable, basically. Right, so that's done with that. And so those will be ready to go in a few minutes. And then we'll make some plates.